Zena had been working so hard for many years. She had 2 jobs, waking up early and sleeping late, just to save money for something special. She wasn't saving for anyone else. She was saving for herself. Her dream was simple: to go on a peaceful, beautiful luxury vacation and finally rest. She had pictured the beaches, the quiet, the joy. She wanted just one moment in life where she felt free, where everything was about her for once. But when her husband, Doomy, found out about the trip, everything changed. Instead of being happy for her, he got angry. He told his mother, and together, they acted like the trip was meant for them. They started planning as if Zena didn't even exist. Doomy's mother, who always controlled everything, said she deserved the trip because she was the elder. Doomy agreed with her. They never asked Zena. They just assumed they were going. Zena was shocked. This was her dream, her money, her effort, but they didn't care. She stayed quiet at first, but her heart was heavy. She couldn't let them take what she had worked so hard for. So, quietly, without telling them, she cancelled the booking. It was painful, but it was the only way to protect what was hers. When Doomy found out, he was furious. He didn't even ask why she did it. He didn't care about her feelings. He raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. In that moment, time stopped. The pain on her cheek was sharp, but what hurt more was the pain inside her. Her heart broke. The man she had loved, supported, and trusted had hit her like she was nothing. Zena didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, holding her face, feeling something deep inside her break. It wasn't just a slap. It was a sign that she was not safe, not respected, not loved. It was like the world she had built with him started to fall apart. Everything she thought she knew about her marriage, her home, her future, it all changed with that one slap. And in that silence, in that painful moment, something else was born in her, a quiet strength. A voice deep inside whispered, "No more." It was the beginning of something new. She didn't know exactly what she would do next, but one thing was sure: Zena would never be the same again. Something had changed forever. That night, Zena sat quietly at the dinner table. Her face still hurt from the slap, and her eyes were red and swollen, but she didn't say a word. Her heart felt like it had been torn into pieces. The man she once loved and trusted had hit her, and now he sat across from her like nothing had happened. He didn't even look sorry. He just chewed his food and laughed like the day was normal. Doomy's mother was there too. She was joking and chatting loudly, making plans for another trip, as if Zena was not even in the room. They talked about where they would go, what they would wear, and what they wanted to buy. They laughed together, using words and jokes that only they understood, mocking Zena in their own way. It was cruel, and they didn't even try to hide it. Zena sat still, listening, watching. The pain inside her grew deeper. She felt like a stranger in her own house. She realized something very painful. In this home, she wasn't loved or respected. She was only useful when she was quiet, when she worked hard, and when she gave them money. They didn't see her as a person. They saw her as a wallet, a helper, a shadow. But Zena didn't cry that night. She didn't shout or break down. She just sat there, breathing slowly, letting the silence speak for her. Because inside her something had changed. She had cried too many times before. She had begged for love and respect before. But now she was done. That night, while they laughed and talked like she didn't matter, Zena made a quiet decision. She began to think. She began to plan. She knew she couldn't stay like this forever. She had to protect herself, her heart, her dreams. She had to find a way out. They thought they had broken her, but they didn't see the strength growing inside her. While they mocked her, Zena was writing a new story in her mind. A story where she was no longer the one being used. A story where she was no longer silent. A story where she chose herself. And as she cleared the plates from the table and walked away without a word, she wasn't just cleaning up dinner. She was quietly cleaning her heart from all the pain. And in that quiet moment, a strong, brave woman was being born. Late at night, while Doomy was fast asleep and the house was quiet, Zena sat in the corner of their small home, with a box of papers in front of her. These weren't just papers. They were memories of everything she had paid for over the years. She took out receipts, bank statements, and handwritten notes. Each one told a story. Rent payments she made, gifts she bought for Doomy's mother, expensive clothes and phones she gave them, even the flight bookings for the trips they took. One by one, She laid them out in front of her. As she looked through each record, her eyes didn't tear up. Instead, they sharpened with focus. She started to see clearly. All these years, she was the one carrying the weight. She was the one working extra hours, saying no to herself so they could live comfortably. She had given so much of herself, and in return, she got silence, disrespect, and even pain. Her heart felt heavy, but her mind was clear. Zena took her phone and opened her banking app. She stared at the amount she had saved through her hard work, the same money she had once planned to use for her dream trip. She didn't hesitate. She opened a new private account, one that Dumi didn't know about, and began transferring her money. All of it. Every last naira, every little coin she had saved. But she didn't empty the shared account completely. She left just enough for rent and bills, so he couldn't say she was cruel. When she finished, it was almost morning. The sky was still dark, but something inside her felt light. She sat back in her chair, took a deep breath, and for the first time in many days, a small smile appeared on her face. It wasn't the kind of smile that comes from happiness. It was a quiet, strong smile. The kind that comes when you stop lying to yourself. The kind that comes when you finally say, enough. Zena didn't feel scared. She felt ready. She knew this was the first step. No more pretending that everything was fine. No more giving all her love and energy to people who didn't deserve it. She had been silent for too long. She had let them control her for too long. But now, she was taking back her power. That night, in the stillness of their home, while Dumi snored without a care in the world, Zena was changing the direction of her life. She wasn't running away. She was preparing, and that quiet, peaceful smile on her face, it was the beginning of her freedom. Early in the morning, before the sun came up, Zena got dressed for work. She moved quietly through the house, careful not to wake Dumi or his mother. The house was silent, just the way she wanted it. On the small wooden table in the living room, she placed a piece of paper. It was a short note, but the words were heavy. She had written, "Next time you raise your hand at someone, make sure they're not the one feeding you." Her handwriting was calm, but firm. She folded the note and left it where Dumi couldn't miss it. She didn't wait around to see his reaction. She grabbed her bag, took one last look at the place she had once called home, and quietly walked out the door. She felt no fear, no guilt, only peace. Later that morning, Dumi woke up and stretched lazily in bed, unaware that his world was about to change. He walked into the living room and saw the note. At first, he smirked, but then something made him rush to check his bank app. His eyes widened. The account was almost empty. The savings were gone. Confused and angry, he shouted for Zena. The house was still and cold. She wasn't there. Panic started to rise. He picked up his phone and called his mother, yelling, "Mama, check your phone! Check the account!" A few minutes later, his mother burst through the door, shouting louder than him. She had checked too, and what she saw made her scream in anger. The money for the vacation, the money for new clothes and shoes, even the money they had saved to show off at parties. It was all gone. Not stolen, just taken back by the person who earned it. They couldn't believe it. Zena, the quiet one, the soft one, the one they thought would never fight back, had done this. She had planned it carefully and left them with nothing but confusion and a letter that burned their pride. Dumi stood in the middle of the living room, holding the note in his shaking hand. His mother paced the floor, shouting and blaming everyone but herself. But the truth was clear. Zena had stopped playing the role they had written for her. She had taken her power back, and she did it without a single fight, without a single scream, just a pen, a note, and her silence. And now, for the first time, Dumi and his mother had to face what life looked like without Zena's help, without her money, without her strength. And deep down, Dumi knew this wasn't just about money. It was about losing the only person who ever truly gave everything without asking for anything in return. And he had pushed her away with his own hands. Dumi couldn't believe what Zena had done. His pride was crushed, and his anger was boiling. He felt humiliated and powerless. So instead of thinking calmly, he let his rage take over. That afternoon, he stormed into Zena's office without warning. People were working, typing, talking, and then suddenly there was shouting. Dumi was yelling her name, loud and angry. Everyone stopped and stared. Zena looked up from her desk. Her face didn't show fear. She had expected this. Dumi marched toward her, shouting in front of everyone, calling her a traitor, accusing her of betrayal. "How dare you take the money? How could you do this to me, after everything I've done for you?" His voice echoed through the room, but Zena stayed calm. She stood up slowly, walked to her drawer, and pulled out a folder. Inside was a printed spreadsheet. Neatly listed were all the things she had paid for since their marriage: rent, food, clothes, gifts for his mother, vacations, electricity bills, even little things like data subscriptions and house repairs. She handed the papers to him, looked him straight in the eye and said, "Go ahead, tell the world who really funded your ego." The room went silent. Her co-workers stared in shock. Some had always thought Zena lived a happy life, married to a man who provided everything. But now, the truth was in plain sight. She had been the one carrying it all. Doomy stood there, speechless, his hands shaking as he looked at the papers. The truth was too clear to deny. He looked around. Everyone was still staring. Whispers began. People were judging him, not Zena. He was the one exposed. The man who had shouted like a lion just minutes ago now looked small, pale, and weak. He dropped the paper, turned around, and rushed out of the office without another word. Zena didn't chase him. She didn't explain anything. She didn't need to. The truth had spoken for itself. She quietly picked up the papers from the floor, returned them to the folder, and sat back at her desk. Her hands were steady. Her face was strong. The room stayed quiet for a moment longer. Then slowly, work resumed. But everyone who saw that moment would never forget it. Zena wasn't just a woman in pain. She was a woman in power. And Doomy, he had lost more than money. He had lost the respect of the one person who truly stood by him. And now, the whole world knew. That night, Zena's phone rang. It was Doomy's mother. Her name flashed on the screen, and Zena already knew it wouldn't be a kind call. She let it ring for a moment before picking up. As soon as she answered, the shouting began. Doomy's mother didn't ask how she was or why she did what she did. She didn't even try to understand. Her voice was full of anger, full of poison. "How dare you embarrass us like this?" she screamed. "You have ruined everything. Our plans, our respect. People are talking. You've made us look like fools." Zena listened quietly. She didn't interrupt. She let the woman shout, let her spit all the blame into the phone. But when the yelling stopped for a second, Zena took a deep breath and spoke calmly, her voice steady like never before. "I didn't ruin anything," she said. "I just stopped sacrificing myself for people who never saw me, who never respected me, and who only remembered me when they needed something." There was silence on the other side. Doomy's mother didn't know what to say. She wasn't expecting a calm answer. She thought Zena would beg, cry, or defend herself, but Zena didn't. She was done with that. She had cried too much already. She had given too much. And now, she was finally choosing herself. Without another word, Zena ended the call. She didn't hesitate. She went straight to her phone settings and blocked Doomy's mother's number. Then she blocked Doomy's number too. And not just theirs. She blocked every contact that belonged to that family. Every voice that had ever made her feel small. Every number that had ever called her only to take, never to give. After she finished, she put her phone down, lay on her bed, and closed her eyes. For the first time in so many years, she didn't feel a knot in her chest. Her heart wasn't racing. Her mind wasn't spinning. There was no fear, no sadness, just silence. Peaceful silence. That night, Zena slept like a child. No nightmares. No crying into her pillow. No pretending to be okay. She slept deeply, peacefully, and freely. It wasn't because everything was perfect. It was because finally she had let go of everything that was destroying her slowly. The noise, the pressure, the pain, all gone with a single decision. And as she rested, the world outside could spin in chaos. People could talk. Doomy and his mother could shout. But Zena was free, and freedom felt like peace. Weeks passed by slowly for Doomy and his mother, but nothing was going well. After Zena left, their lives started falling apart piece by piece. Doomy was no longer the proud man walking around with his head held high. He had become angry and bitter. He was always tense, shouting at co-workers, showing up late and making mistakes. One day at work, he got into a loud argument with a colleague. Voices were raised, threats were made, and that was the final straw. His boss called him in and told him he was fired. Just like that, the job he once bragged about was gone. He walked out of the office with nothing, no salary coming in, no savings to fall back on, and no Zena to support him anymore. At home, things were even worse. His mother had fallen sick. At first, It was just small pains, but it grew worse each day. She needed medicine, tests, and a doctor. But now, with no money and no one to help, they couldn't even afford a hospital visit. Doomy tried asking friends for help, but no one wanted to get involved. People were talking. Everyone had seen the scene at Zena's office. Everyone had heard how he treated her. Now the same people who once envied him and his lifestyle were turning their back. His mother cried all night, groaning in pain, and he sat beside her helpless, feeling small for the first time. They even tried calling Zena. His mother begged him, "Call her. Just ask. Maybe she can help me. Please." But when he dialed her number, he heard that cold message. "This number is no longer in service." He tried again and again. Nothing. Then he tried texting her, but the messages never delivered. She had blocked them. She had disappeared. Not just from their phone, but from their lives. Zena had already moved on. She had built a new life, far from the noise and pain. She had found peace, and she wasn't looking back. She wasn't angry anymore. She didn't hate them. She just didn't care. They had lost their chance. They had thrown her away when she was all they had. Now, Doomy sat in the same house where Zena once cleaned, cooked, and paid every bill. But this time, it was cold, dark, empty. He finally saw the truth, that Zena was never weak. She was the reason they lived well. She was the backbone, and without her, everything collapsed. Karma didn't shout. It didn't warn. It just came slowly, and it stayed. Zena's life changed completely. After walking away from the pain, the silence, and the disrespect, she didn't just disappear. She started building something new, something beautiful. With the money she had once used to feed Doomy and his mother, she invested in her dream. She opened a wellness retreat for women, a peaceful place where other women could come to rest, heal, and find their strength again, just like she had done. It wasn't a big place at first, just a small house with clean rooms, a garden full of flowers, and warm food, but it was full of peace and love. Women came in broken, some carrying pain from bad marriages, others from years of silence and stress. But when they left, they were stronger, happier. Zena welcomed every single one of them with open arms and a kind smile, because she knew their pain. She had lived it. She began to speak at local events and small gatherings. At first, her voice was shaky. She wasn't used to talking about what she had been through. But the more she shared, the stronger her voice became. She talked about emotional abuse, the kind that leaves no bruises but breaks the heart. She spoke about financial control, how some women work hard every day and yet have no say in how their money is used. And she spoke about silent suffering, the way women hide their pain behind smiles because they're afraid no one will believe them or care. People listened. They clapped. Some cried. Some stood up after and hugged her. They weren't just hearing a story. They were seeing a survivor, a woman who turned pain into purpose. News about Zena spread. Her story touched hearts. Her retreat became popular. More women came. More stories were shared. And more healing began. But the most important change didn't happen outside. It happened inside Zena. She no longer looked at herself with doubt or sadness. She no longer wondered if she was enough. For the first time, she looked in the mirror and smiled at the woman staring back at her. She admired her strength, her softness, her courage. She had saved herself, and now she was helping others do the same. Zena's new world was not perfect, but it was hers, built with love, shaped by pain, and guided by healing. She had taken everything that tried to break her and used it to build something powerful. And in this new world, Zena finally felt free. One quiet afternoon, Zena walked into a small grocery store near her retreat. She needed a few things, just a normal day. Her mind was calm, her heart light. She wasn't thinking about the past anymore. She was happy now, free. But as she walked through the fruit section, she suddenly stopped. Her eyes froze on someone standing by the bananas. It was Doomy. He looked nothing like the man she used to know. His shoulders were hunched. His clothes were old and wrinkled. His face was tired, and his eyes were full of sadness and shame. He saw her too. At first, he looked surprised, then embarrassed, and finally, like he wanted to cry. He slowly walked up to her. His voice was low, full of regret. "Zena, I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't know what I had until it was gone." Zena stood still. She didn't look angry. She didn't even look hurt. She just looked calm, confident, and peaceful. For a moment, she didn't say anything. She just looked at him, straight into his tired eyes. Then, with a soft voice, she said something simple, but powerful. "You didn't lose me," she said. "You threw me away." Those words hit Doomy like a rock. He didn't know what to say. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He looked down, ashamed. The woman standing in front of him wasn't the same woman he used to shout at, the one he ignored and controlled. This Zena was strong. She had healed. She didn't carry the weight of his pain anymore. Zena didn't wait for him to reply. She simply turned around and continued with her shopping. She didn't rush. She didn't cry. She didn't even look back. That chapter of her life was closed. She had nothing left to say to him. Doomy stood there for a while, not moving. He realized right there that he had lost something priceless. Not because she was gone, but because he had treated her like she didn't matter. And now, watching her walk away with peace in her steps and power in her silence, he knew he would never get that kind of love again. Zena paid for her groceries, walked outside, and took a deep breath. The sun was warm on her skin. The world felt good. She had faced her past, and it didn't shake her. It reminded her just how far she had come. And as she got into her car and drove away, she felt even more sure of one thing. She wasn't just free, she was finally whole. Zena walked away from Doomy without a single glance back, a small smile on her face. It wasn't a smile of revenge or satisfaction. It was a smile of peace. She had healed. The pain that once controlled her, the tears that stained her pillow, and the nights spent wondering if she was enough, all of it was gone. She had found her strength, and nothing could take that from her. Doomy, still standing in the aisle, was frozen in place. His eyes were wide, his face pale. He realized, far too late, what he had destroyed. He had broken a woman who was so much stronger than he ever gave her credit for. He had taken her for granted, thinking she would always be there to fix his mistakes. But now, she was gone, and she wasn't coming back. Zena stepped outside the store, the world seeming brighter than ever before. She wasn't angry. She wasn't sad. She was free. And for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid to step into the future on her own. She had everything she needed, herself. Weeks later, Zena boarded a plane, alone. She wasn't running away from anything. She was running towards something she had always dreamed of, a vacation, a real vacation, a getaway that wasn't stolen from her, a trip she had once wished for, back when Doomy and his mother controlled everything in her life. This time, Zena paid for it, with her own money, her savings, her hard work. But more importantly, she paid for it with her peace, her strength, and her freedom. She had worked hard to get to this point. No one could take that from her now. As the plane soared into the sky, Zena looked out the window, watching the world below shrink. She wasn't just flying to a new destination. She was flying into a new chapter of her life, a chapter where she was the author, the hero, and the only one who mattered. Zena wasn't looking for closure. She wasn't waiting for anyone's approval. She had found everything she needed within herself, and as the plane carried her away, she smiled again. Not because of where she was going, but because she finally knew where she had been all along, free, strong, and unstoppable.